This is the new Nissan Ariya, except it isn't. Because although it's new to Australia, it's actually been on sale in other parts of the world for almost 4 years. Now on the face of it, it seems to have a pretty sharp price, some compelling features and really long range. So what I want to find out is if this car is too late to the party and already feeling its age, or if it's turned up at exactly the right time.
Nissan is not new to electric cars, and its first offering, the Leaf, is one of the world's longest running, with 15 years of service under its belt. It even has some Australian-made parts in it. So the Ariya brings a lot of battery-powered know-how. But while there's something to be said for experience, it's also important to progress and move with the times.
The Ariya we have here is the mid-range Advance, but this one has had the long-range battery fitted, which means it's the Advance Plus, and it'll cost you about $64,000. The entry level to the Ariya range is looked after by the Engage, which will be about $56,000, while the top end of the range, the flagship, is the Evolve. That gets all-wheel drive, bit more performance, and it'll cost you about $72,000. In terms of options, there's really only two things. You can throw at the Ariya: posh paint for about $1,000, or a two-tone paint job that'll set you back $1,500. This one though has the very cost-effective white, which will cost you nothing at all.
The Ariya has a 6-year warranty unless it's looked after exclusively by a Nissan dealer, in which case it's boosted to 10. Servicing costs $299 per visit thanks to cap price servicing. That amounts to about $2,100 over 7 years, which is very reasonable. On the outside, the Ariya has a distinctive look with an elegant roofline but a slightly stilted stance of an SUV. It rolls on 19-inch alloy wheels as standard and has LED headlights.
Under the bonnet of the Nissan Ariya Advance, you will find one of those, a single electric motor that sends power to the front wheels only. How much power? 178 kilowatts and 300 Newton meters. Now, if you want lots more performance, you can go for the Evolve, which gets the E-Force powertrain and all-wheel drive. But this is a nice, simple and sensible front-wheel drive powertrain for today. In terms of efficiency, Nissan doesn't really talk much about exactly what energy consumption this will do, so we're going to have to rely on the computer in the car for today. And performance, well, 0 to 100 in 8.1 seconds is not massively fast, but as you'll find today, it's adequate.
Charging is not the Nissan's strength, and one way it shows its age is the 400-volt electrical system, which requires 90 minutes for a 10 to 80% charge. That's also partly to do with its large 87 kWh battery, which, when fully charged, has enough energy to go more than 500 kilometers. So at least the overall range is respectable.
The Nissan Ariya is actually a very pleasant place to spend some time, and I think there's a lot of manufacturers that could learn a few lessons from the way this cabin has been done. First of all, it manages to be very minimalist, but it doesn't sacrifice any function through doing that. Let's start with some of the materials though. First of all, there's really lovely soft touch materials on pretty much every surface I can find. I don't think there's any real leather anywhere, and you know what, I don't mind at all because the quality is beautiful, and as we've seen with synthetic materials now, you don't really have to have something that was once mooing in a field for it to feel quite nice. This is sort of a synthetic suede for the most part on the seats, and then a synthetic leathery material for the other parts. Everything feels great and it looks good too, but as I say, it's minimalist, so when you get to this, which is one of my favourite parts, I'm pretty confident that's not real wood. It looks sort of like a bit of an old driftwood plank that they've installed as the dash trim, but there's a futuristic touch to it with this climate control panel. Now, you know my pet hate is climate control panels being buried in touch screens. Not so in the Nissan Ariya. It's got its own panel here, but it's so clean and beautiful because the buttons are completely flush to the surface, but they're touch sensitive with haptic feedback. So even though they don't move, they feel like they are when you press them, and it's really cool. And it keeps it all looking minimalist and nice and clean, like some of the Chinese challenger brands try to do. There's more of these little buttons down here to select the drive mode and e-pedal. We'll talk about that when we're out on the road. And the ergonomics are pretty good as well. Now, the driving position, I feel like I'm sitting quite high. I'm perched atop the car rather than sort of nestled down in it. And I feel like maybe one of the ways you can tell this car is a bit older, that when batteries were big and bulky, they were positioned underneath the seats and that pushed the driver's seat up a little bit. This is as low as I can get the driver's seat, and it's just about right. Steering wheel feels lovely. Good adjustment as well. I can get that nice and close to me while still having a nice long leg position, which is great. And while I'm talking about leg position, look at all this space in between here. There's no center console whatsoever, which means I've got all of this leg room. I could almost have a third person sitting in between the two front occupants. Let me bring this large center console to your attention, because there's a couple of cup holders in there hidden behind a sliding little roller door thing. I've got wireless phone charging. That pairs nicely with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I like the way that's hidden away underneath that armrest there. Well, what about this for a feature? The entire armrest electrically rolls backwards and forwards, depending on where it started. I have no idea why. I don't know what that's for. It frees up a little bit more space here, and I can access my USB A and C charging sockets a bit better, and another little cubby slot thing, 12 volts. But really, I don't really know, unless you wanted to climb through that nice big space in the middle there, I don't really know what it does. More good storage options, big bottle holders in the doors, not one glove box, two. Oh! I forgot about those. Gosh. Yes. He was going for a second one.
Oh yeah, I am.
Oh, I can't start on those, otherwise I'll never stop. All goes on the hips. 2 storage compartments. Good door storage. There's not any massive amount of storage in that center console, which I would have thought there could be. It's quite a big and bulky thing. And while we're looking at nice features, big panoramic roof that lets light into this nice spacious cabin. So really, what I love so much about this cabin is it does a lot very well with not a lot. Some of these Chinese challenger brands are trying to do too little. All the functions buried in screens, whereas this manages to keep all the stuff you need in nice, clean, flush fit switches, but then all the other stuff is hidden away. So it's a clean cabin that doesn't sacrifice on practicality or space too much. Well done. Like a lot of new cars these days, the Ariya has a pair of digital screens Siamesed behind a single pane of what I think is probably plastic in this one. And it works really, really well. You can see why so many manufacturers are going this route, because you can have a customizable digital instrument cluster plus your usual touchscreen for all the infotainment features. And that's exactly what I've got here. The only thing that really immediately strikes me is that the resolution isn't great. You can definitely tell this car has been in the market when you compare the resolution and the sharpness of that, particularly that central display there. It's just a bit soft or blurry or something, I don't know. And it detracts from the whole quality, which is a shame, because clearly Nissan has tried to keep up with the times. They have got this really nice swipe function that makes it feel a bit more like a device, like a smartphone or a tablet, and that works really nicely. And there's lots of good information in there as well. Not a huge amount of app-based systems like you'll find in some really modern cars, but I do have some energy usage tables. This car has native navigation, and this is quite nice. If you're trying to find a charge point for your Ariya, rather than having to go into the navigation specifically tell it, you actually have its own dedicated tile in the infotainment. So you just hit that and the navigation already knows what you're looking for. So that's genuinely quite an unusual feature. I can't think of that in any other. It is a bit customizable as well. So if you go down to this end screen here where you've got a little plus symbol, I can add things to my main home screen, giving me a driving range map, for example. So there's a nice customizable feel to that central touchscreen. The driver's instrument cluster is slightly better resolution, but is nowhere near as customizable. You've got a few different options in the center screen there. For the main part, it stays looking the same. Even when I change my driving mode, it looks generally the same. But I've got all the information that I could possibly want in there. I don't mind that it's fairly limited in its display. Why not, I hear you ask? Because the Ariya also has a head-up display, which you probably can't see from that angle there, but it's a really nice one. It's big, it's full color, and there's quite a few options I can have in there. So generally speaking, technologically, it is showing its age a little bit, but for 4 years in the market, it's not showing its age quite as much as I thought.
The Ariya gets a 360-degree camera, but no 3D views or virtual movable camera. Safety highlights include adaptive cruise control, autonomous emergency braking, blind spot warning and intervention, driver attention alert, lane departure and keeping, rear cross traffic alert, traffic sign recognition, tyre pressure monitoring, and 6 airbags. It was tested by ANCAP and awarded the full 5-star rating in 2022.
In the second row of the Nissan Ariya is a continued theme of space. It feels lovely back here. I've got adequate headroom up here for a taller passenger like me is okay. The other place that's a little bit limited is tow room, perhaps a function of that big battery underneath the floor, limiting the space underneath the seats. But beyond that, elbow room, knee room, it's really, really spacious back here and quite comfortable, but not cozy. The shoulder line at the window is really nice and low, so that means my view out is excellent, but also would be for smaller people as well. Under thigh support is pretty good. That's something that's normally not very good in vehicles of this class. And the adjustment, there's a tiny bit of adjustment on these rear seats. You can actually adjust the backrest from reclined to even more reclined, which is quite nice. It's comfortable and cozy and relaxing back here. There's not a massive amount in the way of technology. You do get 2 USB-C charging ports, and for a grumpy old occupant like myself on a nasty day like today, heated seats, both electric heated seats back here, so a nice plus point for comfort. So in the way of technology, there's not a huge amount back here, but in terms of comfort and space, it's a big tick, and that's probably more important for a vehicle in this class. The Ariya has an electric powered tailgate, which is excellent. And that gives access to a 466 litre boot once you're in there. Not huge for the segment, and once again it's because it has that kind of coupe roof profile on the outside which cuts down some of the space in the upper portions of the boot. It does redeem itself slightly for some clever but simple storage solutions like this, a boot floor that lifts up and becomes a sort of partition, so it stops things sliding around in the boot if you don't want to have a full boot at any particular time, or it frees up extra space underneath those 2-piece removable panels. So lots of flexibility there, depending on what you want to carry. Underneath that though, there's a second floor, and I find no full-size or space-saver spare. There's just a subwoofer, the 12-volt battery for the car, and the dreaded can of syrup for putting in a punctured tyre. So no good points to win back there. And it doesn't really have any particular sort of flashy features, just a couple of bag hooks, no 12-volt power, a couple of cubbies to keep cables and things. It's an average size boot with not a lot going on. The one way it does redeem itself is if you want a bigger boot, you can fold those seats 60-40 split, and that opens up 1,350 litres of space. Now, as I've already said, Nissan will sell you an Ariya with an all-wheel drive powertrain and lots more performance, but don't think that that means this version is no fun to drive. One of the things I like most about the Nissan Ariya really only becomes apparent once you get out on the open road. While it looks a bit extraordinary from the outside, and when it launched nearly 4 years ago, there would have been a lot about it that was completely unlike anything else. Now though, the way it drives and how normal it is starting to catch up with a lot of other things in the market, and normality is kind of what you're looking at. This, I think, is exactly what a lot of people want in their electric mid-size SUVs. For a start, the ride feels, I swear if you put me in a car like this blindfold, I could tell you it was electric, because there's that unmistakable kind of choppiness to the ride, but there's a couple of nice potholes to demonstrate there is a soft edge to it as well. So I think the primary ride is nice and soft and progressive, and the secondary ride is just still a little bit choppy. But I can totally forgive it that, because it also lends a nice dynamic edge to it when you want to get stuck into some more enjoyable roads, a couple of corners. And once again, there's a sense of familiarity that I get from a lot of EVs, particularly ones that have been on the market for a while. I reckon that one of the best things about this car is how it's not trying to be overly different. The ride is comfortable. It's generally quiet, but I'm not sure whether you can hear it at low speed. I'm going to shut up. Can you hear that? There's the sound of the electric motor under power, but then when you back off, it's either the regen noise or a transmission whine. It's actually quite noisy in the cabin. A lot of EVs now are completely silent, whereas this one perhaps is showing a sign of its older technology. It is a front-wheel drive, and it has 300 Newton meters, so at times you can shake a wheel loose quite easily. But the rest of the time, there's another good element to this car, and that is it's not trying to do too much. It's only got front-wheel drive, and if it tried to put masses of torque or power through just two wheels, it's not going to work. So again, Nissan has just kept the whole recipe really nice and simple for this version. The steering is a bit numb. I'm not a massive fan of it. It just feels a little bit disconnected and synthetic, but you can have fun in this car. You can lean on the front end, there's enough grip from each corner to have fun, all without compromising the nice comfort that everyone in the car will enjoy. But let's come back to that issue that I couldn't talk about earlier, energy efficiency. It's difficult to get a figure out of Nissan exactly what they say this will do in the way of kilowatts per 100 kilometers. At the moment, it's saying it's doing just over 18, which is not great. And perhaps that's why they're not so vocal about their claimed figure, as it's not the most energy efficient. And I know I keep saying this, but that comes back once again to perhaps some older technology. This car has a 400 volt main electrical system, whereas a lot of the cutting edge stuff now is 800 volt. And that has all kinds of knock-on effects to efficiency, charging times, performance, all of the above. You'll also notice there are no regen paddles on the steering wheel. A lot of modern EVs now allow you to dial in exactly how much the effect of regenerative braking is when you let off the accelerator. But what you do have in this car is a button down here which says E-pedal on it. So I'm going to press that, and suddenly I notice the whole throttle calibration has changed. So the acceleration requires a bigger push or prod of the accelerator pedal. And then also when I come off the accelerator, oh, quite nice, strong regenerative braking. But don't be fooled, because I was. E-pedal does not mean single pedal driving. It's a bit misleading. So although it does what you're expecting it to for the main part, so 50 kilometers an hour off the pedal down to 40, 30, but then what happens is you get to about 15 and then it just gives up and it just allows you to just carry on rolling. So don't let it lull you into the sense that it's got full single pedal driving, which will allow you to keep decelerating by not touching the throttle all the way down to 0. It stops that effect at about 15 and then just coasts. So perhaps a little bit misleading. I've got 3 different drive modes. I've got Eco, which allows you to coast very efficiently whenever you let your foot off the accelerator. I've got Standard, and then Sport. I mean, it just seems to change the throttle calibration to be a bit more sensitive. Beyond that, I don't know whether I've got, maybe a little bit more weight in the steering. Yeah, okay. So it does a few things in Sport mode, but not a huge amount. Once again, this isn't the Sport version. I don't want it to do too much because it's so pleasant to drive in just its normal mode. It does everything all around quite well. It's comfortable, it's brisk when you want it to be, it's fun to drive when you want it to be, but then when the whole family just wants a nap and you need to cruise quietly and comfortably, it'll do that too. I like that. So there are a number of things about the Nissan Ariya that are showing its age. The key thing though is most of them I think are very easy to forgive. The charging speed, if you plug this car in at home every night, doesn't really matter. It'll be charged in the morning regardless of how quickly it'll do that. If you have to stop on the side of the road and do it on the way somewhere, might be a bigger issue, but for most people, not a biggie. The resolution of the screens, I think that's something you can live with. It's something you probably wouldn't even notice unless you've jumped in something very, very modern and seen the difference in the graphics and sharpness. But I think the thing that is less easy to forgive is its price. When this car was introduced globally 4 years ago, the price of about $56,000 starting was fairly competitive. But these days, there are a number of brands that have come in to challenge vehicles like this with prices that can do a little bit better. Had Nissan introduced the Ariya to Australia back in 2021, it certainly would have had fewer rivals to contend with. But there was a lot more uncertainty in the EV market generally back then. Now though, people have a better understanding of what EVs do and what they offer, but the market has cooled off and there's a little bit less demand for EVs. So I think what this car nicely demonstrates is it is okay to turn up late to a party, as long as you don't turn up wearing the same frock as another guest. And the Ariya definitely doesn't do that. That is the Nissan Ariya. It was launched globally about 4 years ago, but it's only just arrived in Australia. So what I want to know is it okay to turn up late to the party, or has it turned up and all the cool people have gone home? Let us know in the comments below, and thanks for watching Car Sales.